I'd actually seen something on TV which really made me concerned. By the time that she'd actually realised there was something really wrong, she was saying that when she was going to the toilet it was like sort of a tube of toothpaste. And I know that sounds a bit horrendous, but that's actually what it ended up being like for me. So I did keep going back to the doctors and they thought there was nothing really seriously wrong. But they did book me in for an appointment finally to have a barium enema, which was in the December.
About 4 days later, when I went to see him, I went in and sat down and he looked at me and he said, "We've got a problem." And I was actually very impressed with that because I immediately felt that I wasn't on my own in this. And I said, "Is it cancer?" And he said, "Yes." And I asked him if it was operable and he said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "I'll tell you what I propose to do about it." And he told me. I asked him if there were any alternatives, any other options, and he looked me straight in the eye and he said no. And I completely trusted him. He was obviously very experienced, and he made me feel that he was in it with me.
He put me these alternatives, and it seemed to me, and there was, to begin with, he put them in this very even way, and I found myself trying to mind read what he really wanted to do. And in these circumstances I say, well, what would you do if it was your brother? In a desperate attempt to get him actually to commit himself. And all right, well, what do the, I was sophisticated enough, I suppose, to say, well, what are the 5-year survival rates for these things? And so on. And eventually he committed himself, and it was quite clear what he wanted to do. And it was quite clear that was an alternative that would leave me, if it was successful, which it was, with pretty well no disability and a very good chance of no recurrence.
And what I did was write what I call a balance sheet of life. I wrote down all the things I regretted that I would be missing, and they just amounted to eight things basically. But I also wrote down all the achievements, all the happy memories, and that came to over 100 things. So I was able to look at this and say, okay, if I've got to die, I've had a damn good life.
He's been very positive, very encouraging. Hasn't given me any sympathy. He feels that that is the most important thing. Sympathy, you can't have sympathy with something like this. It's a war, it's a battle, and you have to fight it.
So how has he supported you?
Literally by being there for me every step of the way, encouraging me every step of the way, that every operation was going to be successful and everything was going to be fine.